Muito obrigada a todos por estarem aqui. Para a gente é um privilégio ter vocês aqui. Hoje, a gente vai estar conversando sobre as visões diferentes de dois homens. Nos Estados Unidos, tem um grupo seleto de homens chamados os Founding Fathers. Eles são os pais que forjaram o país, que forjaram a nação. Dentre todos esses ilustres homens, tem dois que sobressaem, que são Thomas Jefferson e Alexander Hamilton. Esses dois, eles tinham visões completamente divergentes, até conflitantes, mas juntos eles moldaram uma nação, a nação hoje considerada a mais poderosa, se não uma das mais poderosas. Hoje nós vamos ver os diferentes pontos, as divergentes ideias entre os dois. Isso é um debate. Nós temos dois times. Um time que vai defender as ideias e a ideologia de Thomas Jefferson, um time que vai defender a ideologia e as ideias de Alexander Hamilton. Eu estou com a minha moeda aqui. Carol e Júlia, eu vou pedir para vocês escolherem se vocês querem cara ou coroa.
Eu escolho cara, porque Jefferson era contra a monarquia.
Então tá certo. Deu coroa! Então, o time do Jefferson vai primeiro. São os que perderam o coin toss que vão primeiro. Agora em diante, eu vou apertar a tecla SAP. May the best man or woman or team win. Congratulations. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samia, and I'm a senior in high school. I'm also the first speaker of Thomas Jefferson's side of this present debate. Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, and also one of the most important founding fathers, wrote the following words to be immortalized in his grave. Jefferson is well known for his contributions to the early foundations of the United States and as the author of one of the most influential political documents, the Declaration of Independence. As an anti-federalist, Thomas Jefferson was in favor of a strong local power and states' rights. He was tired of central government's power, authority, and mainly its tyranny. Unlike his opponent, Alexander Hamilton, he acknowledged the importance of a strong government, but only when it came to foreign relations. And he also defended a decentralized agrarian republic.
So you said both acts, the creation of a bank, the treaty with France for Louisiana, would be of a great good for the country. And both acts would strengthen the power of the federal government, which Jefferson feared so much. So, why was it not allowed in the former case? It was allowed in the later, when Jefferson was president. How to explain such controversy?
This is a good point, since the Judge Marshall of the Supreme Court said that Jefferson was right, because in the Constitution he was written that the president could increase the land and the territory after a war and treaties. So it was legally right to Jefferson do this.
My question is, in 1784, Thomas Jefferson was appointed to the United States envoy minister to France and began to live there periodically with his oldest daughter Martha and multiple slaves. A 14-year-old slave named Sally Hemings was taken by Jefferson and described as quite a child, handsome, long straight hair down her back, and decidedly good looking. Jefferson raped Hemings multiple times in Paris. Hemings became pregnant with Jefferson's illegitimate child, but died upon their return to America. He continued to rape her regularly and having 6 children with her. From this, where is the inalienable right to life, freedom, and pursuit of happiness that he defends so much?
you need to consider the time Jefferson lived in, and also like the northern people defended they were in favor of
Alexander Hamilton was an American political figure that passionately guided his nation through the wilderness of the political scenario of the New World, altering forever not only the economy of the United States but also inspiring other countries to join the exponentially profitable industrialization. Different from most of the founding fathers, Hamilton was not born endowed in inherent wealth or status. The Secretary of State wished for the people to think continentally, identifying themselves first and foremost as Americans, not New Yorkers or Virginians. Hamilton mulled over a complex, well-rounded program to achieve his vision of a government. Alexander Hamilton proposed a system of taxes and tariffs to pay the debt, a national bank to handle the financial crisis, and it would also centralize the fiscal resources of the government. Nevertheless, his genius-like vision was contradicted because the creation of such an institution was not specified in the Constitution.
So I want to talk about the centralizing the national bank and the capitalism that Hamilton defend. That this capitalism generates just not enormous amounts of inequality, but also the system couldn't not survive on this one. The Great Depression, caused by the dependence on the rich people and the bank's money, is just one example how capitalism continuously fails and penalize the poorest.
As you mentioned before, he was a congressman, but we saw that Hamilton went behind the Congress and made a legal table to the beneficiaries of the construction of his national bank, having in mind that every aspect of a candidate matters, including his character. How do you defend yourself against this?
You say that Hamilton's act was not worthy of a president, and actually he never aimed to be a president.
It is undeniable that Jefferson had freedom as the closest value to his heart. In addition to that, the founding father also had two important characteristics of a great leader. He mixed sensibility with pragmatism. In opposition to the unjust British capitalist society, Jefferson's view of society put the common man in the center of every policy or action from part of the government. Jefferson governed for the people. He was trusted by small farmers and did not depend on the support of the rich to win.
After hearing about his life, we can see that Alexander Hamilton was a man of morals, such a characteristic that was manifested explicitly in the way he would design plans of change for the future of his country. As the first Secretary of the United States Treasury, Hamilton was assigned the task of solving these economic problems. His beliefs were based on a strong central government as a way of benefiting the state's relationship to pay off debts and overall problems caused by the war. To achieve all his goals, the federal government would have to assume all national debts and pay the $78 million. Alexander Hamilton defended that America should gain credit for industrial development and investments. He thought the USA should follow the path of countries like England that already had started its industrial revolution in order to increase national capital and advance in technology, which would not be possible by staying in an agrarian economic system.
About the bank, as you may know, one of Alexander Hamilton's main economic ideas was to create a national bank. For the farmers in the South, it was particularly prejudicial, considering that it would give too much power for the rich men in the North. In addition to that, President Washington was uncertain about the constitutionality of the bank, having consulted 3 men, including James Madison, the greatest expert on the American history. Jefferson himself argued that the bank would create a financial monopoly. Why did Hamilton insist on a proposal that was not just theoretic, but very questionable in terms of constitutionality?
You said that Jefferson thought that it will give it too much power to the richers, right?
Yeah, it was because Southern thought that it would give too much power for the rich man. No.
Okay. But that doesn't mean nothing. Like, even Hamilton created the Constitution, which is the restrict power. He restrict the power, but he give a little bit power to the higher class. So he restrict that power. As he said, he didn't want to create the disorganized power.
You talked about morals, Hamilton's morals, and Julia also talked a little bit about it. And I want to ask, like, the Alien and Sedition Act's well-known repressive measures, which allowed, for instance, the government to punish those who spoke out against it, was created by the Federalists, in which Hamilton was included, and oppressed American citizens in the land of freedom.
Although Alexander Hamilton was the leader and creator of the Federalists, it doesn't mean that he would agree with all of the measurements that the group enforced in the nation. It doesn't mean that he agreed with it. So we don't have any proof that Hamilton was involved in this act.
Today, 3 people own the same amount of wealth as 50% of the poorest population in the country. It is because policies such as Hamilton's industrial and financial capitalism have been implemented. If in the United States, 41 million people face hunger, it is because of the societal model that was defended by Hamilton and implemented by the Federalists. As part of Jefferson's plan, every American citizen would not just be able to self-govern, but to guarantee their true freedom by having a piece of land that would provide themselves everything they needed to live with dignity.
Secretary of State Jefferson helped the colonial French slaveholders in Haiti to defeat successful slave rebellion, saying for relief of whites on the island. He refused to recognize Haiti as a sovereign republic after its victory, and he imposed a trade embargo. He was a racist. He didn't like black people, but why did he propose a federal law prohibiting slavery?
Okay, so about Jefferson's beliefs, he believed that agriculture was the best economic support for the country over industrialization, and he argued agriculture unlike Alexander Hamilton. What would the American economy look like today if there were no people like Hamilton who argued industrialization against agriculture?
So I'll tell you what Jefferson's economy, Jefferson's United States would look like today. It would look like a nation without people that were in hunger. It would look like a nation without 3 people owning the same amount of wealth as 50% of the population. It would look like a nation without 700,000 people who are homeless. Jefferson defended that everyone should have their basic needs attended by having a small farm to attend all their basic needs.
Also, complete the Carol thoughts. If we are living in a world where it's impossible to have agrarian republic size. All the Hamiltons in the world want to stay with the world when rich get rich and poor get poor. So, but we can use some countries which have some kind of agrarian republic.
As mentioned before by Julia, Hamilton started to work since he was just a child. This would allow him to achieve high levels of maturity so earlier than anyone. Hamilton also had a huge sense of responsibility. We see this when the Revolutionary War began. He didn't mind to drop college and volunteer to fight. The United States wasn't his country, but still, he did risk his life to save the nation he loved. All this led us to believe that Hamilton put America first over anything else. Now, here's my question for you all. In what kind of government do you think America has grown the most? Was it when Hamilton's philosophies were followed, or otherwise?
The Federalists, such as Hamilton, believed that the Constitution didn't need a Bill of Rights. Would this affirmation be indeed good for the nation as they thought? Please, in your answer, consider the fact that the Constitution only defined the basic rights of citizens, while the Bill of Rights protected the rights of all citizens, residents, and visitors in American territory.
The anti-federalists were opposite to this creation of the Bill of Rights to protect the civil rights. So because they saw this as a threat to the rights. Like if you want to list every right you have, you will never end. There are so many that you can list. So they saw this as a threat to the rights.
How is possible Hamilton will guide the US to success in the future talking about economy, politics, and social movement if he clearly rejected in his final letter the idea of democracy? Quoting, "Disease was the democracy."
Unlike Jefferson, Hamilton did not believe in the innate, he was not fool enough to believe in the innate good of people. So he didn't believe in democracy because he feared anarchy and what an uncultured mob could do. So he believed that the central government would forbid that an uncultured mob would take over the country.
You're talking about education. I have an example of Jefferson who founded the University of Virginia, but I don't have an example of Hamilton talking about education that I know.
Well, Hamilton was more focused on economics, not in education. However, Jefferson only put a university in his beloved state. However, it's not denied that he agreed with education. He actually strongly disagreed with uncultured people.
So Lara asked about the Alien Sedition Acts and why Hamilton supported such a strong and repressive measure that went against not just human rights, but also all the basic beliefs in which the American nation was founded. And Julia answered that because although the Alien Sedition Acts were proposed by the Federalists, Hamilton did not support strongly these acts, but this is a lie. Since it is even cited in the official website of the government, the Defense First Amendment, that not just Hamilton was against the Bill of Rights initially, which is like a tremendous problem for the citizen that wouldn't have their rights guaranteed, but he was also in favor of the Alien Sedition Acts, putting him in a very controversial position as a repressive father and politician.
I just have a question, it's directed to Felipe, although obviously everyone can answer this, but since he wrote the speech, I just wanted to know, like, where did you get the information that the bank helped citizens, you know?
It's common knowledge that by helping the states to pay the war debt, it would help the citizenry. How could the bank do not benefit the people? Because it would allow to levy taxes, to provide currency. Without the bank, they would have an unorganized economy. It helped so much.
This has been a heated argument. And I'm going to go back to Portuguese because we have some parents here that don't understand English. Esses argumentos, eles são muito importantes, são muito interessantes. Eles levam a raiz, como o Lucas falou lá no começo, eles produziram a raiz do que hoje são os partidos democratas e o Partido Republicano. E cada argumento aqui feito, existem os prós e os contras. A beleza é que juntos, as ideias juntas, combinadas, elas transformaram os Estados Unidos no que eles são hoje. Porém, hoje, nós teremos um vencedor.
Eu só queria, o Lucas que vai dar o nosso veredito, mas eu queria parabenizar todos os alunos.
Eu queria dizer em primeiro lugar que é uma baita mancada deixar isso para eu falar, tá? Isso é em primeiro lugar. Em segundo lugar, não é retórica quando a gente fala que vocês estão todos de parabéns. Não é para passar a mão na cabeça do que não ficou com o primeiro lugar, não é isso. De fato, foi muito bom. O critério utilizado para avaliação de vocês foi Content, Argument, Line of Reasoning and Presentation. Em termos de conteúdo, a gente viu ambos os grupos muito bem preparados. Ficou claro que vocês estudaram, vocês sabiam do que estavam falando. né? A linha de raciocínio de vocês, os argumentos foram bem colocados também. A apresentação de vocês também foi muito boa. Então, quando a gente foi dando nota para cada um desses 4 critérios, ficou claro que teria que ser um empate entre vocês dois. Então, surgiu uma ideia como critério de desempate e a gente entendeu que seria justo. Nós percebemos que um dos grupos pareceu melhor preparado para responder às perguntas do outro. Então, houve 2 episódios em que um dos grupos teve dificuldade de responder ou ficou em silêncio e passou o tempo e a resposta não foi dada a contento. Isso aconteceu dos 2 lados, mas de um dos lados aconteceu com maior frequência do que no outro, mas coisa mínima, tipo 2-1, ok? Então, usando isso como critério de desempate, eu gostaria de dizer que a nossa decisão é que o time do Jefferson foi o campeão de 2020. Então, parabéns, Jeffersonians. Parabéns também, Hamiltonians. E estamos todos bastante orgulhosos de vocês.
E até a quarta-feira, a nossa aula. Parabéns!
Bye bye, congratulations, guys.